Welcome back to Turning Hard Times into Good Times. I'm your host, Jay Taylor, and I'm glad to have with me for a second time Shawn Wallace. He's the president and CEO of Auryn Resources. It's a company that trades in Toronto under the symbol AUG, and you can buy it down here in the States, as I have, under the symbol GGTCF, recently trading at around $1.50 in Canadian money. There's only about 30 million shares outstanding prior to an acquisition the company plans to make, but it's a relatively small cap company with I think some assets that are very exciting. You know, it usually makes sense to stick with winning management teams, and Auryn Resources has exactly that. In the persons of Shawn Wallace and Ivan Bebek, both jointly involved as partners in structuring deals for highly prospective mineral properties. And together, these two men and their teams bring together the essential skills, I believe, of proper deal structuring, financing, and geotech, all those expertise that are required to move an exploration project forward towards a viable economic project. Listeners to this show, as well as my subscribers, recently were richly rewarded in 2014 for buying shares in Auryn Resources, which was really spearheaded by Ivan. But both of these co-equal partners dive into their deals with all the necessary efforts to make them work. And I think the odds highly favor an encore for the Bebek and Wallace team this time, which is why I'm really happy to have Shawn with me once again. Thanks, Shawn, for joining me again.
Oh, thank you, Jay.
You know, the main news event for Auryn shareholders since you and I spoke on the show a few weeks back has been the agreement with North Country Gold Corp to acquire that company's property up in Nunavut, which is a very exciting property called the Committee Bay Gold Project. And I do want to have you address that because it is so important. But before we get to that, I would like to, for the benefit of listeners who may not have heard you previously on this show or may not be at all aware of what your project is all about. Can you talk to us a little bit about the Committee Bay Gold Project and what caused you to invest in that one over many dozens of others that I know you looked at?
Well, sure, Jay. We'd gone through a rigorous process, and we had some looking at various projects in various jurisdictions. And in a market like this, we took a very patient approach to it. In other words, we saw some good things, but we wanted to make sure we found the best thing. And I think we've done that with this particular project. The best for what our goals are, which is to be able to discover new gold resources. And I think that's really important because it's that exploration look, that potential to expand what's known about it, that really gets us excited. And I think that's where we can deliver the most value for shareholders. We're an exploration-driven group. We're not going to go in there and build a mine or it's not our engineering prowess that has us, delivering value to people. It's the ability to discover high-quality gold resources. And this project has that opportunity in spades. The other important aspect about it, other than having good grade and being well endowed with gold, is the fact that this particular project is 300 kilometers long. And when you look at, there's a main deposit there called the Three Bluffs, and it's about 9 million ounces of 8 grams or something, and it's going to expand, and that's all great and everything. But really, if that was all there would have been to it, it probably would not have been so interesting to us. However, you look at over this 300 kilometers, there's only 60 holes that have been drilled, and of that, a large number of them intercepted, fantastic. And obtained a fantastic result, and it was sort of consistently over this project. So that really spoke to the endowment, and it gave us what we call a district look. It was in a district in our definition is a geological setting or a trend that has the opportunity or has the ability to produce several gold deposits, and we believe that's what we're chasing here. And then finally, the jurisdiction. So obviously, Canada, Nunavut being a good place in Canada, aside from the remoteness, which is the challenge. But other than that, good mineral tenure system, you can get projects permitted, you can operate. And of course, that's extremely important as well.
So you've got 300 kilometers of strike, of structure, I guess, that you've determined is there. So you have an awful lot to shoot at, and I see this past Tuesday you reported that you are initiating an exploration program that will focus on the southwest region of the Committee Bay Gold Project. Can you comment on the goals of this drill program?
Yeah, so we are doing a drill program. We brought one rig up for this summer. We're focusing on the southern portion of the project, frankly, because that's where we finished our prospectivity study on that portion already, and we managed to get ahead of the drill, as we say. In other words, we've done enough work that we've outlined a number of high-quality targets, and we're quite excited about it. So we're going to go drill down there. The goals would be to make, to discover one or more new deposit footprints. And if you look at the map, there already are, at West Plain, you've got historically 14.5 grams over 8.5 meters, 13 grams over 8 meters. So this is the kind of target that we're going to be chasing down there. In doing our prospectivity analysis, we actually took all the spatially coalescing data, in other words, geophysics, geochemistry, structure, which is so important in this setting. In other words, you need faults going up iron-banded formations, and this is where the gold occurs. And the nice thing is that this in itself would just be sort of academically interesting, but the fact that we know that this is an endowed gold system makes it really quite exciting. So the goal here is to go there, test some of these targets, and try and develop deposit footprints. And we have outlined nearly 20 of these potential footprints with our prospectivity analysis.
Wow. So how long can you drill up there in that frigid environment? How many summer months can you be active?
Well, sure, yeah, and even right now it's the snow's kind of gone, and the temperatures are above freezing and so forth. So it's not as frigid right now, but it's certainly relative to down here it is. But we can drill until October comfortably. We'll see. We tend to hit these things hard. In other words, you go up there, you do as much work as you can as quickly as you can, because the per day cost, if you will, of running the infrastructure of the site, it can add up. So we want to get as much technical work done as quickly as possible, obviously still keeping quality on the forefront of the quality of the work, and you go from there.
Would you have, in a faraway, frigid place like Nunavut, and with the infrastructure issues, you're saying that is the challenge, but at some point, enough high-grade gold ounces can make a project work. There have been other projects up there north of, in that area that have been profitable. I'm thinking, looking way back many years ago, the Lupin mine was way up there somewhere in that north that far, and it was a highly profitable high-grade underground mine. Are there other mines out there now that? Can you give us an example of some other projects that may have been successful up in the far north? And also, maybe you could give us an idea of how many ounces do you think would be required before the economics might start to attract major mining companies?
Sure. Right now, up and not too far from us, you have Agnico Eagle drilling off a new discovery they made, sort of northwest of their Meadowbank mine, which is a producer that I think in 2015 they produced about 400,000 ounces.
Wow.
At a cash cost of $656, which
wow.
is pretty bloody good, even if compared to anywhere, let alone in the Arctic. And their new discovery called Amarak, they've spent $20 million already. They came up with a maiden resource of 1.5 million ounces of 7 grams. So, and that spurred them to continue spending and drilling. And, Agnico's had a bunch of public disclosure about how excited they are about that. So that's been very, in terms of, bringing credibility to the area, and the fact that it's worth spending money up there. Well, here you have Agnico, which is a fantastic company up there doing that kind of work. You've also saw this week, a company called TMAC. They did an IPO, and it was successful, and they upsized the amount of the money they raised in this market.
Wow.
In the Arctic. So you have this kind of activity going on right now, and Sabina is getting going again. You start, Bruce McLeod has taken over the reins of that, and he's a very capable guy. So I know something's going to come out of his involvement, and so you got really good people up there spending real dollars in this environment, which is it's almost counterintuitive, but it's very it's very supportive when you have people bringing attention to the area.
Yeah.
And that's certainly happening right now. And it also cuts down a little bit on this sense of remoteness. The places that you work out of, if you have a number of companies doing the supply chain starts to get a little bit better, people gear up and you can access things. There's some economies of scale. Maybe you share a barge of fuel in with somebody and you can
mm-hmm.
save money. I mean, we're always looking, we've hired someone who does nothing but look at ways for us to
cut costs. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's an all-day, everyday exercise.
Yeah, good. Well, let's talk a little bit about the proposed acquisition of North Country Gold. Can you outline the proposed deal with North Country and how that will benefit Auryn shareholders?
Sure. I think it's going to benefit all shareholders on both sides, and they will all be Auryn shareholders shortly. So, we agreed to pay North Country shareholders 1 share of Auryn for every 10 shares of North Country, and that I think we're going to be issuing approximately 13,800,000 shares to do that. So that'll have us up at about 44 million shares fully diluted, but with 100% ownership in this asset. And it's really quite as simple as that. It's a basic share exchange, and then it consolidates the ownership. There's no more JVs and JV committees, and all these things are great, and we were quite willing to operate under that structure, but it can be cumbersome. And when you have an area like the North in particular, where execution is so important, and also being prepared for these exploration windows we discussed, being able to drill sort of from now till October, and then there's another window between, say, February, late February, and April, May. If you miss one of those windows, well, that's half of the work that you would have been able to do that year, and that's not good. So, this way we de-risk the project from a little bit of execution risk. So that was really important to us.
Yeah. So you don't have to. Now you will, once this deal is consummated, assuming it is, and I think the odds would seem to favor that it will be. Then you will have 100% ownership. Do you plan to still spend, though, at least as much as you had to spend in order to earn your interest in this project?
Well, I think, in fact, because we don't have to consider another party's ability to raise their portion of it, I would suggest that, all things being equal, if we still continue to maintain the momentum we have and the interest in our company that we've been enjoying, I think we would probably spend more as a result of this.
Okay, well, you decided to acquire North Country now, even before you put any drills in the ground. Why did you choose? Why now? Why now did you think it was time to pull the trigger on this deal?
Well, outside the need to mitigate execution risk, that would be one factor. The other was there was a bit of a discrepancy in valuation, if you will. If you factored in our market cap, their market cap, what we were trading at, and giving us a 51% ownership and their 49%, there was a discrepancy in value. So I think it was accretive for Auryn shareholders to take advantage of that discrepancy. So that certainly was one of the factors. And I just think that it's much simpler for the market, and I know the North Country guys agreed as well, and we'll all be shareholders of the same entity now. It's easier to tell the story as one entity, give shareholders the opportunity, if they so desire, to invest in a consolidated story, as opposed to confusing them with, well, which one of these two things should I buy, or and so forth.
I've mentioned just briefly in the introduction your partnership with Ivan Bebek and how important that's been, how successful you guys have been. This is your third deal, I believe, that you're working on, the first two being highly successful. And but I know that you're relying also on some people that are boots on the ground, people that are really involved technically with the project. I believe your leader there is Michael Henriksen. Could you talk about, perhaps just very briefly, talk about his background, and if there's anyone else you'd like to mention in your technical team that makes it possible, the success that you guys have had in the past possible?
Well, sure, and Dan McCoy is also a huge part of that. He was part of the Cadence story.
Mm-hmm.
He's on the board here, but he's not. Michael is the sort of the chief technical beast, if you will, for our team on Auryn. And I'm glad you brought that up, Jay, because really Ivan and I get an awful lot of kudos because we're sort of the face of these things. But I can tell you, we would have got nowhere without these technical people. I mean, they're the ones who actually go and execute and find the gold and so forth. And we're very cognizant of that fact. And Michael comes to us with a great, he's sort of the perfect fit for our company. We met him over in Africa when we were working on Keegan, and he was working for Newmont. And what he did for Newmont was he was a global structural guy. So something like this is right in his wheelhouse. I mean, he's used to being part of teams that take districts. They do studies on the districts. They narrow down where the target should be on the districts. And, he's worked on, in Ghana, in South America for Newmont, in Carlin, all over. So, and all in these orogenic type systems. So he's got all the right relevant experience. And with him, he brings a guy named Dave Smithson, who was the technical lead for Caden. And Dave is just one of the best mappers and structural guys also out in the field. Mm-hmm. And the two of them are really sort of, they've worked together for years and years, and at Newmont, they bring that as well. The other thing Michael has done, and one of the reasons we actually made this acquisition now, going back to your earlier question, also is that he put together the entire Newmont team that did prospectivity analysis for Newmont. So when you're trying to work an asset to get the kind of results that would attract a major mining company, who better to have technically formulating that picture than a bunch of people who were on the other side of the table. In other words, the major mining companies.
Sure.
To know exactly what they need to see before their buttons are all pushed.
Sure.
And we're talking about, some of the top technical people globally for doing this type of work. And so, again, only in an environment like we're in right now do we get an asset like this and do get to work with people of this caliber. People of this caliber
who can actually make something of a 300-kilometer long target, which is unbelievable. Well, it's really an exciting story, I must say. It's certainly one that I've made sure I had a few shares in my portfolio. Is there anything else that you think needs to be emphasized before we conclude our discussion today?
No, I think that we've gone over most of the things, Jay, but I think that it's really important that everyone realize that this is a huge project. We're working on the southern third of it right now. So, this is a story that's going to evolve over time. And so we put out our prospectivity analysis on the southern third. That doesn't mean that that's the best third. It might end up being that. We simply just don't know that. Soon we'll be publishing the prospecting analysis on the middle portion and the northern portion of it. And who knows what's going to come from that. But we're certainly very, very, excited. And, we're a young team, and you can expect a lot of, news from us over the coming months and years.
You're a young team with a considerable amount of success for your youth. So it's one of the reasons. And you and Ivan certainly pulled together the quality people underneath you. And I think very highly of your collective ability to pull things together on all fronts, which most junior mining companies don't have. The various skills that are required to make things work. I might tell our listeners then to keep track of the drivers that go forward for Auryn, that they should, one place to go to certainly is the website. It's AURYN, that's AurynResources.com, AURYN Resources.com, Auryn Resources. And I guess that's probably one of the best places. And if people want to get emails from you to keep up with what's going on, I'm sure that's possible too, right?
It sure is, yeah. Or they can phone in anytime. We've got a team here that's more than happy to speak with anyone who is interested in talking about our project.
Very good. Well, thank you very much, Shawn, for being with us today. I really look forward to doing it again sometime and keeping track of this very exciting story. Thank you very much for being with us.